guys, welcome back to Tedi Unscripted, the podcast where I'm finally back. I'm finally posting again. We redid a lot of our studios. We redid a lot of our sound systems, which is why we're running a little late today. But if you're watching us on Facebook, be sure to check us out also on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, hopefully Twitter soon, and anywhere that you can listen to podcasts, Spotify, Google, anything like that. I want to tell a quick story before I introduce my guest today, because we have been kind of teasing doing a Bitcoin show for a while. And if you know me, you know that I don't know anything about Bitcoin. I got a call a few weeks ago from my boyfriend being like, put $5 in Bitcoin right now. And I was like, okay. Went on my little app on my phone, did it. Knew nothing about it. I was just like, this will be fun. It's $5, whatever. Mentioned it at work one day and they went, you know about Bitcoin? You should do a Bitcoin show. And I was like, oh no. I don't know anything about Bitcoin. So now we have a Bitcoin master here who's actually going to tell us about Bitcoin, because my version of it would be sad. You just heard my version of it. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So tell everyone first about yourself, how you got into Bitcoin, anything like that, so we can get to know you.
Okay. Little bit about myself. My name's Michael, and 34 now. Moved to South Florida when I was 20. And, when I was younger and I was a teenager, I was always a little geek. I was a techie. I was a computer guy. And as I got older and I moved down here, my first job actually in South Florida was at a brokerage for stocks and commodities.
Oh, so you're like way back. Like you knew it.
Yeah. So I wound up getting licensed to trade the markets. And I gained a big background of financial markets from that. I also actually worked at Bank of America for a tiny bit, and as the years went on, I'm in a different career now, but what wound up happening years ago, about 2015, I was talking to a wealthy friend of mine in West Palm Beach.
Mm-hmm. as we all have.
Yeah, right.
Just casually.
Right. And he started telling me about Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. And the way he was describing it, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
It immediately caught my attention and interest. I saw a huge future in the innovation of it, and I bought it.
And there, you're like done.
Yeah, and as the years went on, I got into it further and learned more. And but yeah, we'll get into all the specific reasons. I know you have a lot of questions.
I have a million questions because I know kind of how Bitcoin started, as it was like a cryptocurrency and it was untraceable. Now it's like super regulated and whatever. Mm-hmm. And that it's kind of like a stock where it goes up and down. And that Lil Wayne says 1 Bitcoin can pay your whole semester. Ooh. And that's about all I got. But Lil Wayne, I will take a Bitcoin for another semester at school now that you've been pardoned. But so tell me, what's the beginning? What is the basics? Because you said you work with a lot of people who are noobs at Bitcoin, who just start. What is like the starter pack that you can give to them?
Okay. Well, maybe first we'll get into a little background.
Yeah.
So Bitcoin, to describe what it is, Bitcoin is a decentralized peer-to-peer currency.
Okay.
To where there's no intermediary or third party that can control the interaction. Yeah. So it's a direct person-to-person transaction. Decentralized, again, meaning there's no bank, government, company, or computer that has a control over it.
Yeah.
And you can kind of think of it in the most simplest form as sending money like an email.
Yeah.
Like through the internet, right? Now, the way it got started, which no one actually knows the guy's real name. He went under a pseudonym named Satoshi Nakamoto. Nice. There's a lot of mystique behind it and questions. Yeah. But basically, a guy and some other people anonymously through email communication coded the Bitcoin protocol or blockchain. And once they coded it, they released it open source. Okay. Open source code. So there's, whereas, let's say Bill Gates made Windows, but it's a patented closed source.
Yeah, you have to pay for it to even be your OS. Yeah.
So he coded it with an open source protocol and just released it to the world under a pseudonym name.
Yeah.
And went ghost. And no one knows who he is. And that's really the beauty of it, is that there's no name tied to it, like an Elon Musk with Tesla or something like that, or Steve Jobs with Apple.
Yeah,
right?
It's just Bitcoin.
And that's it. He created it, he released it, and over a long period of time, people started to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And here it is now at this super high price, and everyone's going crazy about it, and they're like, how do I buy it?
So if it's an open source, and again, I'm so sorry if I'm going to be asking stupid
You ask
questions.
anything you want.
If it's an open source code, what backs it? Like, what makes it worth certain amounts of money?
So that's a great question.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great question. So
I know it's probably hard, like stupid
yeah,
to explain.
well, without getting too complicated about it. So Bitcoin is controlled by what's called miners,
Okay.
which are basically people around the world,
Mhm.
and also gigantic warehouses full of servers.
Oh.
These servers are programmed with algorithms, and the way that the Bitcoin protocol or the blockchain was coded
Mm-hmm.
is that these miners or servers, they basically govern the transactions to where as people use it and try to buy it and transact with it,
Mm-hmm.
it's being mined through their servers, and that's how the blockchain kind of keeps progressing forward. And what the blockchain basically is, or what the miners basically do, is they're documenting one giant ledger. Every time someone does a transfer or a transaction, it's publicly, which contrary to popular belief, people think Bitcoin's anonymous. And,
Yeah.
you can use it for
Oh,
crimes.
so it is.
It's actually not. It's actually a public ledger. The same
Yeah.
way that I swipe my debit card, it stamps a ledger
Mm-hmm.
with Chase. I get my gas. On the other end, it shows a debit, and then on the other end, it shows a credit on maybe whoever the merchant is. at the gas station,
Yeah.
Wells Fargo's ledger. And so Bitcoin is its own self-governing ledger of transactions.
That's insane.
As the miners keep mining it,
Mm-hmm.
it keeps progressing forward. Now, it utilizes a significant amount of electricity and power to mine, or to keep the protocol going. So there is the beginning in the early days. That is essentially how it starts to build value, because it's like, okay, it's costing people
Yeah.
electricity. It's costing them money for electricity
Yeah.
to mine it.
Yeah.
And so that's how it's starting to build value. Now, when you get into it more on a mass level, on a mainstream, massive scale, you kind of actually have to go back into really how anything in the world develops worth.
Which is just mystery and humans deciding.
Correct.
things.
Correct. And it sounds crazy, but that's how things become valuable. Whether, when you think about it, whether it's gold or diamonds,
Yeah.
right? Diamonds are a scarce thing.
Yeah.
And because they're scarce, they're and precious, people desire them. So supply and demand starts to take place, and the value goes up. And now when it comes to a fiat currency like the US dollar or any other, the yen, it has value based on the confidence of the underlying confidence of it.
Yeah.
You know, our government and the way that our government functions in society and
Yeah.
businesses, right? And the way that we interact with, think milk and commodities and oil, right? So we know certain things have a value as we are using them within our society.
Yeah.
So we know that the US dollar, it's backed basically on that perceived confidence that it has of value. So it becomes similar with Bitcoin now. It becomes almost like it's backed really by the confidence in the narrative, which it has. And I know it sounds...
No, it makes complete sense.
Okay.
No, it really does. Because I remember, I used to travel a lot, and recently my boyfriend and I went to Costa Rica, and I was trying to figure out the exchanges between the monies, and it didn't really make sense to me. And he was telling me, it's because of exactly what you said. It's how much something costs. It's
Correct.
how countries, they say backed by gold. I don't really, that's kind of a weird concept for me, so I just ignore that one.
Well, our government stopped doing that.
Oh, really? See,
about
I don't know anything.
50, 60 years ago.
Oh,
yeah.
so I'm still learning from like the 1880s, history books.
Right.
Thank you, public education system. But no, that makes total sense. That is people believing that something is
Right.
worth a certain amount.
Same
So
like
it is.
look at all these paintings.
Exactly.
A Van Gogh painting is
It's a painting.
worth a large amount of money.
Yeah.
A Michael Jordan rookie card and, all sorts of things that have value behind them.
That's insane to think.
So this brings to another important thing.
Mm-hmm.
So not only can Bitcoin be used as a peer-to-peer currency
Yeah.
where we can transact with each other, but it also has a fixed supply. So when it originally got coded by this guy Satoshi,
by Mystery Man.
right, he set a fixed supply of 21 million Bitcoins.
Oh.
Or I should even say just Bitcoin. It's a collective noun.
Yeah.
So Bitcoin. So he made a fixed supply of 21 million.
Mm-hmm.
So since it has a fixed supply, as more keep getting purchased and mined,
Yeah.
it's more limited. And again, supply and demand start to take place. It's a scarce asset. That's what we're seeing now. 18.5 million have been purchased, and there's only 21 million, so there's only 2.5 left, or 3.5, right?
Yeah.
And so, the beauty of it though is that Bitcoin has 8 decimal points behind it, so you don't just have to buy one.
Oh, yeah.
It's $30,000
I have
right
$5
now.
worth of one.
Right, so you could buy like 0.000146778 of a Bitcoin. And so it's very similar in the way it's becoming perceived now is actually people actually kind of are stopping to use it as a currency
Oh, really?
because it's so precious,
oh.
so valuable. So they're kind of thinking of it now, especially Wall Street is starting to come in of like digital gold. Gold is valuable because it's scarce.
Yeah.
You have to mine it to find
Yeah.
it. And so it becomes a scarce asset, similar to how Bitcoin has a fixed supply. Same thing with, if there's only X amount of Van Gogh paintings,
Yeah.
someone will pay $5 million for one.
Someone out there. I'm sure. But no, that's awesome. And that makes a lot of sense. I didn't realize there was a fixed supply on it. And that always confused me because I knew that it was just something on the computer. And it was that same little kid thing of like, why don't they print more $20 bills? Why don't you just make more? And to hear that they're stopping doing it because now people are starting to, hoard them for the future because they're going up?
Yeah, so the price of Bitcoin has increased so drastically. And so it's developed a narrative of being scarce and precious. So the people that got in relatively early, like myself, I don't want to sell them.
Yeah, which
why would I want to
makes
sell
sense,
it?
Yeah.
And then you see our government, coronavirus, all this stuff going on, and they're printing trillions of dollars. And we see other countries, like Venezuela, experience hyperinflation because they printed a bunch of money in the past. And now we're witnessing our government printing this money to bail out companies and relief and all this stimulus. And so it's
Yeah.
like, okay, now
Now what?
15 years from now, is a gallon of milk going to be $10?
Yeah.
And so now people are like, well, we have this thing, Bitcoin. We know a gallon of milk, what it's really worth.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll just transfer you X amount of Bitcoin for that gallon of milk.
That makes sense. That's genius.
If we experience hyperinflation,
Yeah.
who knows?
Which might not be that crazy of an idea, thinking of what's going on. But that's insane.
Yeah.
And you learn so much about this just from being at your brokerage, from doing it, from
Yeah.
just being in
So,
the space.
years ago, I got my licenses, my Series 3, my
Yeah.
7, and I was working at a brokerage. And this was right in the heart of 2008, too. We had the oil bubble, oil was exploding.
Yeah.
And then we had the first, the movie The Big Short.
Yep.
We had this mortgage meltdown,
I
and
remember that.
we had a recession, and the market was crashing. And so I lived it firsthand too, where I'm seeing kind of the market psychology behind,
Yeah.
how the financial sector is really functioning. So that was really like the foundation of me understanding all this, right?
Yeah.
And then, years later, kind of combining my tech knowledge and seeing, this thing, Bitcoin, it all has come together,
You just got that perfect mix, that perfect melt of like, I know this,
Yeah.
I've got it all together.
Right.
No, but that's amazing. And that's something that, and one of the reasons I wanted to do this show and what Michael told me about you, Michael told me about you, Michael, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing, because this is something that I hear so many people talk about. And even just hearing people talk about it, there's discrepancies in, what they say. Do you really understand what it is?
Right.
I hear people say this, that, it's a physical thing, it's not a physical thing. You see the pictures of it, which, by the way, check out the Tedi Unscripted Instagram, because we have pictures
You got
of it
people
there.
calling it a Ponzi and a
Yeah.
bubble and a scam, and there's a lot of...
It's, you never know what the real truth of it is. So to have you here who's like, I've studied this, I know what I'm doing, to have the facts is incredible. And what would you, for people like me who have no idea what's going on in the world ever,
Yes.
what is a good time to invest? Because I hear people say it's always a good time to invest. You have to wait till it drops. How do you know when it's going to drop?
Right. So, okay.
I know, the little questions. I'm sorry.
No, it's great. So I've been being asked that for years.
Yeah.
And one thing I notice with a lot of new investors, they're not experienced. They tend to get a little scared. Right. One pattern I always see people ask, they'll ask me how to get in.
Yeah.
I'll tell them how to get in. And then they'll say something like, well, I'm going to wait for it to pull back first. But then it keeps going up. And then they say, oh, damn it, I missed it.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait for it to pull back now. But then it keeps going up. And they're like, oh, damn it, now it's way too high. And I've been hearing that. I mean, I've been hearing that since Bitcoin was at $600 and $1,500. I'm going to wait for it to go back. And then it went to, 5 and 10,000. And then it went to 20,000. And at that time, it was very hyped up. And it did kind of become a bubble. It bursted. The price fell dramatically. A lot of people got scared, panic sold it. We went through the last 2-3 years of it kind of sticking in a certain range. And I think what that did for Bitcoin was it kind of showed people that it's not a bubble. It didn't just crash to zero.
Yeah.
It did prove some resiliency behind it. It takes time for things to be, mainstream adopted. Even if it's a new technology or, 20, longer now. In the 90s, people made fun of email. In the 90s, people, there's quotes online of the people saying, this internet thing is never going to work. And Amazon's a stupid idea, right? And so it kind of showed some resiliency. But so to really now answer your question, the reason why I feel like it's always a good time to buy is because, in my opinion, this is still a very early market. And when you compare something like the market cap of gold is $8 trillion. The stock market, right, the stock market worldwide is about $27 trillion of market cap. Bitcoin is about 500 billion. Or maybe even 800 billion now, I gotta look. But you see how young it is, and it's still maturing. So I think there's a lot of exponential growth behind it. And I think any time is just a good time to just get in, because if it does keep going up, you're going to hate yourself because you feel like you missed it. But if you do get in it and it goes down, then you buy more.
Yeah. Buy more and wait.
And there's investment strategies behind that too, called scale buying or cost averaging, to where, let's say you buy Bitcoin at $30,000 right now, and literally a week later it goes down to 20.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, I'm losing all this money. But if you buy the same amount of it at 20 that you bought at 30, now you averaged your price to 25. So there is strategies behind investing that's been going on Wall Street for 100 years. to kind of limit your risk. So you're not just getting in it all at once and getting scared, and you could slowly buy bits and pieces and cost average your way in the market. That's a great strategy for new people to buy in, just buy pieces.
I've never heard of that. That's stuff that I feel like on Wall Street, one of my uncles works on Wall Street, and he's a banker there, and he used to tell us all these little things that I never, you don't think about it, and you're like, how do these people not go broke? How do these people not, like, do one bad investment, and all of a sudden they're done, and that's it, and you're in the streets. And it's little secrets like that I'm sure isn't, it's not a secret, you don't sign NDAs for it, but it's something that most people don't know. I never knew. I'm not really the best example of not knowing, but
one major thing too, now that you say that as well, is it's important to be patient. It's important to have long-term thinking, because if you think of anything, whether it's Bitcoin or whether it's any stock, Google, it's not a get-rich-quick, and people tend to think of this stuff as a get-rich-quick. Because they hear all these stories of people that bought it, but it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's any investment in the world. You buy it, you hold it. Warren Buffett says to hold different investments for at least 10-year periods of time. And that's how he's been the most successful. So if you have long-term vision, then you shouldn't really care about these short-term ups and downs.
Which is going to be what scares you.
Correct. And
scares you into, I call it bad clicking, and selling everything and being like, exactly as you said, oh no, I screwed up. So that is huge, because I have heard a lot of people say, oh, I knew this guy and he made $10,000 on Bitcoin or stock or whatever, and it's like, yeah, but how long did that take him?
Correct.
Because he didn't do it in 2 days. And then you're kind of like, oh, I was, banking my tuition or whatever on these 5 days that I've been invested in Bitcoin or whatever. It's like, not quite. Not quite there. And so for all of this help, you have a Twitter.
Yes.
That you're on, as I didn't know, with Bitcoin Twitter. Yes. The whole thing. Can you talk about what you talk about on there? Do you help people?
Yeah, so Twitter has kind of its own subsection of Twitter. It's like a cultish subsection of Twitter called Crypto Twitter. They call it CT. And we're like our own, cult community. And it's getting larger now. There's a few big people, big personalities, podcasters, Wall Street guys, tech entrepreneurs. But it's a growing community. And when I joined, I owned Bitcoin and crypto way before I found out that there was this cult section of Twitter.
You were just like, this is cool. This is fun. This is smart.
So I get on it, and I see guys like John McAfee, the creator of McAfee Antivirus. I see him on it.
If you see him on it, tell him to get out of my computer.
He's in jail right now in Spain.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe he'll get out of my computer. I'm so done with those notifications.
So I see guys like him on it. And I
see.
See.
On Twitter from jail?
Yes, right now, yeah.
I'm sorry.
He has a crazy story going on right now, but I see guys like the Winklevoss twins, the original idea people behind Facebook.
Yeah.
I see guys like the Winklevoss twins on it, and they own a major Bitcoin exchange now. It's a very secure way to buy it. We'll get into that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So I see all these major people, tech guys, entrepreneurs, all this. So I'm very interested. I start following a lot of actually their advice as well. And then, it kind of, I kind of came to a place myself where I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. It's fun. And there's a lot of noobs on it. There's a lot of, there's thousands of other cryptocurrencies. And there's all kinds of, people have all these questions and all this stuff. So I kind of started to take my experience and my background in the financial markets, and my understanding of Bitcoin, and I attempt to give advice.
You do a great job of it.
I try to build my own following. It's pretty difficult. So if you're listening, follow at Mikey_Mock.
Yeah, we have it in the lower third if you're listening on a podcast. Mikey_Mock. Do you want to spell it out for everyone? Because I can't see that part of it.
Yeah, no problem. It's at Mikey_Mock, MIKEY_MACH. My last name is Macchia, and my nickname all my life was Mock.
Last name ever.
It's like Ralph Macchio, the Karate Kid, just a little different. So that's the at, that's the tag handle, and then my name comes up as Hoddle Be Thy Name. I got it from Bible study, and we were saying the Lord's Prayer, and it's like, hallowed be thy name. So I came up with Hoddle Be Thy Name. Other people, there's a guy in West Palm Beach. His name is the Wolf of All Streets. So people think of cool names.
That's amazing.
Yeah. There's Crypto Bitlord, and there's all these people have these cool names, and so I try to think of a cool name. And
that's amazing. I have to take him and be like, oh no. See, now when I make my Tedi Unscripted Twitter, I'm gonna text you and be like, give me a name, give me a good one.
Oh, you would want to do Tedi Unscripted because you want to brand all your social medias together.
No, that's awesome. And we only have a few minutes left, but
Okay.
I wanted to talk about the fact that we want to do a series.
Yes.
We have to bring you back on, and we're going to talk about how often you can come on, how comfortable we are coming on, because this is something that, again, I had no idea how huge it was. I had no idea that it was, in my mind, it's like, oh, there's a stock of Lil Wayne has stuff that's super cool.
Right.
When this is a huge world, this
Yes.
could be, and this is, could be the new world for currency. Probably is a world currency at this point.
Yeah, actually, right now, how much time do we have left? Just so I know.
We have probably got 5 minutes left.
Okay.
But we're gonna do, like I said, full series. We'll do full
Right.
episodes on
Yeah, to kind of hit it home right now, it actually is becoming a world-renowned currency now. It just surpassed, I forget what country, but it just became the 17th largest currency in the world out of about 270, 300 countries.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think there's room for exponential growth because it's still very young. I think I'm actually not a conspiracy theorist type of person where it's like one world currency.
Yeah.
I think Bitcoin serves a great purpose as an alternate currency.
Yeah.
I think it helps a lot of people in developing countries. There's people in the Philippines and Africa, all over the world. They can't get a bank account. So Bitcoin helps people like that a lot. They don't have to worry about getting a bank account. They can't get one. It also, because it's divisible by 8 decimal points, you could do what's called microtransactions. What if you live in India and someone owes you $1?
Yeah. I was gonna say it must be great for it to go to other countries. There is no, what's
Right.
the conversion rate of
Correct.
dollars to rupees or anything like that.
I also think it's very practical in the sense that, one, we live in a digital world now. It's much easier for me to send Bitcoin across the world. I actually just did it this morning. I did a $20 giveaway on my Twitter.
Another reason.
I sent someone $20. They won it.
Yeah.
But it's very practical in the sense as well as if I send even a Western Union for $100 to my grandmother in New York, it costs me $15.
Yeah.
But if I teach her about Bitcoin, I could send it to her and it costs 25 cents.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of practicality to it. It is a very growing market. In my opinion as well, the way that Wall Street and companies are starting to get into this thing. There's a company called MicroStrategy. They're a software enterprise company worth billions of dollars. They just put about, I think, 500 billion of their cash reserve into Bitcoin because they're afraid of future inflation. So I think it's becoming very popular. There's a lot of room for growth, and in my opinion, it really is. I think it's the biggest wealth opportunity of our generation.
Yeah.
People our age missed the tech bubble of the late 90s. We missed it. So in an investment sense, I think there's a lot of wealth opportunity. And in the practicality of worldwide currency, it can gain a lot more popularity than it is now. I think this was an awesome foundation. I would love to come back as often as you'd like. This is like a true passion of mine. And the next time that we meet, we should definitely get into, anyone listening, we'll get into the most safe and secure way that you can go and lowest fees that you can go about buying this stuff on all these different apps.
Yeah.
Right.
because I know I'm terrified. I buy it, and we'll talk about it on the
Yeah.
next show. I buy it on an app on my phone, and I'm like, oh, I'm not really sure. I mean, mine's
Yeah, it's like,
$5
is this company in China? Are they in the U.S.? Is
Yeah.
it regulated?
Is it even gonna stay?
Can I get
up?
hacked? You know, Bitcoin, by the way, is 100% unhackable. But there are different exchanges and apps to be careful with and to pick the right one. We'll get into more of that next time.
I'm super excited, and I'll let you know. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, because that's where I'm going to announce the next one we're going to talk about when you can come on next. I can't even talk anymore. My mind is blown by absolutely everything we've talked about. But thank you so much, and be sure to follow Michael at Mikey_Mock on Twitter, because that's where he's going to be giving out a whole bunch of information and giveaways.
Yes.
Amazing.
Free money.
Just one more way to get started into Bitcoin. Be sure to check us out next week, and I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you have any questions for the next Bitcoin show, please put it in the comments. You can email me at tediunscripted@gmail.com. You can put it anywhere on social medias. I'll always find it, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you guys so much.